Hello, this is AnlineOffline. Welcome back to another Casual's Quick Guide to Call of Duty Mobile. For today's video, we'll be covering the Razorback. Introduced in the second season after launch, the Razorback is a bulb-up SMG that was added from Black Ops 3. It was originally locked behind supply drops, but was made available for all at level 55. Given that it used to share stats with the PDW-57, one may assume that it's yet another futuristic P90. But it's actually a futuristic version of the F2000 that was scaled down from 5.56 to 5.7, and it uses an HK G11-style windup. More traditional F2000s have appeared as proper assault rifles in Modern Warfare 2, COD Online, Infinite Warfare, and Vanguard, a World War II game. This bulky Belgian bulb-up by FN F2000 is essentially the larger rifle counterpart to the earlier P90. Instead of a top-loading magazine, it's more traditional of a bulb-up, and instead of a downward ejection, it ejects forward through a tube, which makes it more compatible for left-handed shooters. Other methods of forward ejection would be implemented by later bulb-ups such as the Kel-Tec RFP and Desertec MDR. Unfortunately, Call of Duty's Razorback does not use this feature. The sealed system makes it impervious to environmental debris, but the rubber gasket does restrict some magazine types, and the lack of a bolt hold open doesn't help either. Thus, the F2000 and its sci-fi aesthetic is usually limited to special forces, but it did find a home for itself as the standard rifle for Slovenia. As an AR-SMG hybrid, base damage per shot is moderate, killing in 4 shots up close and only dropping to 5 past that. The fire rate is rather slow for its class at 625 rounds per minute, and is similar to slower firing ARs like the KN-44. So your time to kill is quite slow up close, but it technically has infinite effective range. Legs deal 10% less damage and are a non-issue until its final range. The chest and forearms deal 10% extra and can extend its 4-shot potential to mid-range. But because the stomach and bicep deal base damage, it can squander your potential time to kill if your opponent jumps or looks to the side. Headshots deal 30% extra, and you could achieve a 3-shot kill if you land a multiple or mix it in with the aforementioned chest area. But let's say you want a faster fire rate. Then we have rapid fire. You now shoot at a more moderate 694 rounds per minute, which is a flat buff to your time to kill. It's now relatively average up close, and potentially devastating from afar, just like the chopper and fellow rapid fire Hades. And unlike similar attachments on other guns, rapid fire on the Razorback has no direct downsides. In terms of mobility, the movement speeds are below average. The base sprinting speed is tied with the HG40, MX9, and PPSH for the slowest in the SMG class. But unlike them, the Razorback does not have access to attachments that can boost it. Luckily, its ADS speed and sprint out time are average. The base mag size is the standard 30, and can be extended to 42. Reload cancelling is basically the same whether or not you have spare rounds, but you do have to wait until you take your hands off the inserted mag. Contrary to its description, the Razorback's bloom is on the lower end of average. Fortunately, its hipfire spread is one of the best among SMGs. Its iron sights are distinguished but usable, and its recoil is easy to control. Originally, Mobile's Razorback was a reskin of the PDW-57 and had the same stats. It did have less muzzle flash, but a worse iron sight, and was locked behind microtransactions. So there was no incentive to go for it. Its stats were reworked when it was made available for all with the release of Gunsmith. Consistent recoil and more range, but no more 50-round mag, a slower fire rate to properly match its Black Ops 3 counterpart, and it now had bloom, which was above average according to Barasia of the Cygnux Discord. A couple seasons later, it would receive a minor range and recoil buff, and by the end of that year, it would receive rapid fire as its signature attachment, which made it a more solid weapon. 2021's changes to the Razorback were more subtle. Along with other SMGs, its mobility was improved early that year, but its bloom was quietly reduced to average. And because its bloom remains untouched, even after 2 years, it would be somewhat left behind when the bloom of ARs and SMGs were buffed in 2022. To compensate, Season 6 would buff its recoil and body multipliers, and it would receive a slight mobility buff towards the end of last year. As mentioned before, the Razorback used to share stats with the PDW, and there were a couple times when the devs accidentally released a blueprint that had PDW stats, but still had access to the Razorback attachments. Thus, this version of the PDW would have access to rapid fire, and would become a sort of 50-round QQ9. And as of this season, the new damage values have made the Razorback very solid again. The base version is very similar to the KN-44 in terms of time to kill and 3-shot potential. You don't necessarily have to use rapid fire, but at the same time there's no reason not to. With it becomes similar to more flexible weapons like the M4, Kilo 1-for-1, and fellow bullpup SMG AR hybrid, the AGR in 5.56. The Razorback doesn't really need any drastic changes, as it's faithful to BO3. The most it needs is a more average boom, for the sake of its description, and would allow people to use optics more freely, like what the devs did to the ARs and LMGs last year. Number 2. A slightly shorter reload cancel would be a bit more convenient. Number 3. Razorback lacks in attachment variety, so why not tweak some of the attachments then? A less heavy extended mag, the OWC foregrip that it shares with the core type. Then again, foregrips in general aren't useful for the Razorback because of its already low recoil. But hey, that's just my opinion. This has been a Casual's quick guide. Feel free to suggest what weapons you want to see covered next. My name is On, and I'm off.